Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Alana James, and today we're talking about personalizing your learning journey to get just what you need and want. How to build a plan, how to learn strategies from others. And I have to say that when I was in graduate school, it didn't even occur to me to have this conversation. So I lead it today with some chagrin because now I know that there was a whole lot more I could have done for myself than I even thought about doing. So hopefully this will pass the word that you aren't, if you feel stuck in any way, use that as a stepping off point to get unstuck. That's the overall message that I hope we take with us. And there are others at any point in conversation, if you want to guide this conversation, there is a page that I'm also watching in the background at https://wooclap.com/PD plan. And for those of you who are watching this by recording in the future, if you have to watch by recording because these times don't suit you or whatever, there will be, for most of what we do, there will be a WooClap page that you can go to and help guide the conversation the way you want it to be. Because oftentimes we sign up for something and it sounded right, but they really didn't get where we were hoping they would go. So now you have a way of participating and guiding us that we all find very exciting. Hope you do it a lot. So what's our agenda today? How to prioritize school, work, and life has been one set of questions that came up. A week ago, we had a beginning group work session that asked what was slowing people down in their graduate work. And this prioritization and the how do we do it between all the aspects of our lives was one of those things. So it comes under planning, and we'll discuss that today. Then personalized learning is part of it. We come to this process with what we already have established. We have strengths, we have weaknesses. How do we move past them both to get where we want to be when we come out? Those things are personal and may not have been covered in our plan. And with those, some of the questions that are asked in WooClap about specific kinds of help that people know they want, will address that, which is also part of this question of planning work with others. Last week, someone said, how do I find the time when everybody can meet? Well, that actually comes to a broader question of how do we negotiate with those people who have control over our plan and whether it works. So I'll discuss that as well. And then, as I said, as I go through this, I'll try to keep an eye on WooClap and address those things when they come into one of these three topics. We're going to take a page from Stephen Covey when we talk about prioritizing school, work, and life. So I'm a senior academic, and I have at times in my career built big projects. I've written 4 books now. I've done a lot of things that are the kinds of projects that other people say they can't get to because they just can't find the time. And so when I came across Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, which this is a book that became popular in the 70s. I've heard about it most of my life. And I only took it seriously and began to investigate it probably 2, maybe 3 years ago now. And I was delighted by this diagram and this one portion of his books, which he says, how do you talk, when you talk about time, how do you categorize those priorities? And he suggests that there are 2 kinds of categories. There are by levels of urgency and by levels of importance. So if it is important but not urgent, he would give it a 1. I'll talk about that in a minute. If it's important and urgent, he would give it a 2. Not important or urgent, and 3 and 4. I actually think I'd reverse those 2 on this one, stealing the image from someone else. But what it amounts to is, what are you doing when are you doing things that are your personal important things? They may not be urgent to anybody else. In fact, probably writing your dissertation and getting it done, or your thesis and getting it done, is not important or not urgent and may not be important to anybody else. But yet, if you don't chip away at it day after day, week after week, you will probably find yourself in a place where you are just feeling a bit desperate about it, and that can be avoided. Most people categorize what is in number 2 as their number 1. So, for instance, things that we have to do with our families, children, priorities, those things are the things we say, I have to do this. And that is true, but we also have to get where we personally want to go. So if we just get a little selfish here in our own thinking, we don't even have to share this with anybody else. But if we just look at our calendars and we say, what's important to me that won't be urgent to other people, and how do I block out the time to get those things done? Because important and urgent, probably always going to get done. It's got some driver behind it. Not important or urgent, but is still on the list. That makes some kind of sense. But if you just got to your 1s and your 2s all the time, you probably could slack for a few days on your 3s and your 4s and still get by just fine. Urgent but not important is actually what most people see their email boxes being. So maybe you might put email at the end of your day instead of at the beginning of your day. These are the kinds of questions that Stephen Covey takes us through. And I wanted to introduce you to them. And then if you have questions, at the very least, look at all the things on your to-do list and put them into these boxes and take a little reflective time to decide, where are you guiding your ship? Box number 2, someone else is guiding your ship. Box number 1, you are guiding your ship. So that's what I needed to say about how you manage it. And since I adopted this kind of a thought process during my doctoral work, which now is, I don't know, 15 years ago, long time ago. And it has always been the thing that allowed me to build the CV I have, and to build to take the step to build this business, to do the kind of work that I do with my career. And if I hadn't have done that, if I had just kind of worked for the people I was working for, who were more than happy to flood my desk all day long with number 2, I wouldn't be here. So I personally say, take this one seriously. Adrian asks, I often wonder how big a difference it would make if, for a limited time we are able to get in the zone instantly and work with laser beam focus. And I find, I don't know how to answer that exactly, but important, not urgent, driving my life there has simultaneously, maybe also with meditation, those two things together, have allowed my focus and my getting into the zone instantly to increase. So you might consider putting time when you are just by yourself, reflecting, on your life, letting your intuition talk to you, go along with this kind of strategy. So I think that's a great place to start. We're manning our own ship, and now we're in a place where a lot of people are guiding your ship a certain way. Now, you, as graduate students, you bought into their program. They sold it to you. They gave you ideas about where it was going to take you, and you bought into it, and you have given your resources and your time and your commitment to it. And somewhere along there, it is not unusual for you to say, wait a second, is this going where I want to go? And if I look at my graduate background, and this is why I say I'm having the conversation today with some chagrin, because there were several courses that absolutely had nothing to do with where I wanted to go. And so what did I do with that? I probably just played along. I did just play along. I got the grade. It was about getting the grade. It was about doing things, but I wasn't proactive in my own behalf. I wasn't looking at this seed that they had given me in terms of this class and this professor. I was not saying, I was just saying yes, no. Yes, I was fully engaged. No, I wasn't fully engaged, but I played the game. I got through it. How much better it would have been if on the nose, I would have said, okay, can I grow something out of this seed that isn't what they intended? Are there things here that may get me where I want to go that wasn't quite what they planned, but still I'm managing my own ship? So, given that as background, these slides actually are not up in the handouts yet, but they will be quickly towards the end. And that particular link, oer.pd.education, if you haven't found that, that is this company's open educational resource site. It's where we stash our slides and our documents and other things that you might find helpful. And there is a professional development plan. It's new this year, and it comes from the fact that if you graduate from university and get a job in industry, likely one of the things that you will be looking for, that perhaps you should be looking for in the job you choose, is how much professional development are they going to give you as part of that job. So the industry world has a lot more money than professional development in the education world does, and they have at this moment much more robust and innovative research. And one of the things they are saying is that it is important for the learner, so that's anybody who's out to learn something, to drive their learning. Now, I'm an educator, and in my background was learning to read by thinking about the book or the article or whatever it was I was going to read, thinking about it first, what I hoped to get out of it, and then judging as I went to what extent this was giving me what I wanted to do. And I did that with Post-it notes on pages, and I did that by writing and outlining and that kind of thing when the world was less digitally oriented books. So what you'll find at doing this is a SWOT analysis. I think we got our hands up back in the room. Next in the chat down below, you have a hand. Would you raise your hand if you have done a SWOT analysis before? Not a lot of hands going up. So a little bit of background. A SWOT analysis is really common in business. And it is where a group of people, usually, hopefully, people who are on the floor, mid-level managers, top managers, come together. They have an idea of where they want to take the program or the company or the whatever, the project, and they do a SWOT analysis. So they analyze what are the strengths we have going for us that will make us successful. What are the weaknesses, our known weaknesses that will get in our way that we have to overcome? What opportunities are really given us in this potential project? And then what threats are there? And those can be threats that have to do with where you're at right now. So you might be deciding that you're going into a new project because there is a current threat. And if you don't manage it right now, you will get it done. So that's actually turning a threat into an opportunity. Or it might be that you are at a mid-level position and a threat is that a lot of people who are younger, more innovative companies are coming up. You define your own idea of strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. So all of these are your personal definition of where you want to go. Now, you can do this about your job, about your life, about where you are with your particular program. But you can also do it, and this is why we put it out, about your professional development, because we are a professional development company, and we want you to find the resources that will help you the most. So obviously, if you do the work to figure out where your weaknesses and threats are, when you see the emails cross your plate that those things are coming your way, you are more likely to say, oh, I need that one. Oh, that's about argumentation. Yep, I need that. So 15, 20 minutes with this will help you decide what you come to. And that will help you build. Everything we do is a building block of our future. So if we're going to build the strongest us we want, then we need to have the right building blocks. And if we don't do something like a SWOT analysis, if we don't proactively envision where we are and where we want to be, we have no assurance we're going to get there. We're letting the world kind of pass us by. So strong recommendation, go to that link, and I will put up the handouts and you'll have that link live. Now, Adrian says, how I wish our doctoral seminar would once in a while read and discuss a well-written dissertation chapter by chapter together, focusing on both the writing quality and the research rigor, not just either one. So I will just do a call out for the fact that there are a number of resources. If you are at a university that has a pd.education site, or if you're at TEMU too, who's still using the doctoral net site, you will have available to you webinars that do cross comparisons between written dissertations, chapter by chapter. Because one of the things I like to do is critically analyze dissertations from different disciplines. And I think there's something to be picked up with analysis. And one of our Woo Clap ideas was that somebody wished for more robust help from other students in terms of working in groups and that kind of thing. So my answer to that is you have to keep looking. Dean last hour suggested that you can have a strategy where you go to the thing that is a sampling strategy, actually, where you go to the closest possible place you're going to find what you want. And you don't find what you want, but you find a little bit of what you want. And that perhaps expand your keywords. In an internet search, you'd go to your first question, you'd expand your keywords, you'd go to more, you'd get closer and closer, you'd finally find what you were looking for. Well, the same thing can happen in groups, and the groups don't have to be live groups on your campus. They can be virtual groups. And a place that you might go for that would be in your discipline. If you want discipline-specific conversation, is to investigate the international conferences that are put on for people in that discipline, and the resource groups, organizations that are discipline-specific. Almost all discipline-specific, academically driven organizations will have something that they do for early stage researchers. It might be a dissertation award, it might be, but there will be people who work with early stage researchers. There will be an interest because every academic discipline is interested in bringing up new people into their discipline. And you can have that conversation with them. I'm really looking for a group. How could we have an online group? Don't you have a website I could start something in? And you just have to keep reaching out and saying, I want this. This is what I need as part of my path. Now, how do I get it? And there will be other people who need it. The wonderful thing about a web environment is, I don't know if you're familiar with the theoretical base of the long tail, but in every statistical bell graph, there's the tail that has almost nothing. But because of the web, we can have very large, robust groups, comparatively large, robust groups, who are interested in the interests in one of the two tails. We no longer have to just find things that are in the middle of the bell chart. However, our organizations and our academic world in general is a little behind on that. So sometimes it takes a voice saying, this is what I want, how do I get it, to make it happen. So that was a lot of conversation, all leading you back, I hope, to a desire really to take a bit of reflective time and figure out just what you want. So once you do, I have some things to say about our particular set of tools, just in case. So you will find that I will go back to the slide here. On the right-hand side are the 10 topic areas around which we organize our professional development for master's and doctoral students. There's a whole lot more resources in some of them than there are in others. We're a growing organization, but you will find excellent resource around any of those tools. Now, say you found that you had a weakness, or in fact, that your career longevity was threatened by not having some of those things. I just have a few suggestions. On your university websites, you'll find a link for box sets. And what we have done with the box sets is we have put often 10 videos together, 10 webinars that revolve around these topics, because academic thought is complex and it's subtle. And you need to hear it from a lot of different perspectives to capture those subtleties. So there's a box set on research design. There's a box set on academic writing, on criticality. We're working up some things on argumentation. So if you're weak in an area, go see if there's a box set. You have a ton of material delivered in one email. There also may be an on-demand video. And for those, you go to your account, which is in the upper right-hand side. There's a pull-down menu, and there's on-demand videos. And they are really I would wish anybody who started graduate school would just watch those 10 videos. Every one of them, it has secrets in it that will help you go further faster. If research design is a weakness or a threat, then you should be working your self-assessments through your research design, and they should, you can do that as you're writing them as much as when you're designing them, so that you can make sure that you've got all your criteria that are part of those self-assessments covered. If you're not so sure about your academic writing, the quick boost is the 10-day writing boost. It's an experience, and that means it's delivered over a period of time by email. And the 30-day writing challenge is for really done a little bit more with the PhD in mind, when you have trouble just making yourself write every day, because that's what you need to do. A 5-minute video comes and gives you a bit of uplifting thought about the writing process, and then hopefully you take off and you do a half an hour of writing after that video. If wellness is a challenge, and by wellness I mean worry, anxiety, imposter syndrome, I mean just mental health issues, as well as physical health issues, as well as feeling work-life balance issues, any of that we categorize as wellness. And under the experiences, you might like the Monday motivations. They're an email that comes every Monday that is both upbeat and full of resources. And if you're not quite sure what it means to build an argument, we've got 3 webinars this term and the 4th one coming up next term. Pretty soon is the first webinar about what is argumentation, and then there are specifics that Professor Maria is doing after those, which have to do with the different kinds of argumentation. And if you haven't heard her break down very complex issues into finite step-by-step processes, you will not have any doubt, and they are very good resources. So those are some things to think about that come from us. And then I will look at the things, before we go into negotiation, I'll look at the ones that came up in WooClap. So one of the topics, a couple kind of cluster here, stats class was requested, professional full-time writing consultants with doctoral degrees was requested, and explicit program-specific instructions, workshops, group practice regarding what is expected in each dissertation chapter. I cluster those because they all ask for a doctoral level expertise in a specific need that you have. And I suggest that you might chart your own course here. Very few, a lot of people work on campuses that are not professors, not on a tenure track, but they have the qualifications that you're looking for any of these things. And there are also people who perhaps would be delighted to have students come to them and ask them personally to help with stuff for a fee. So if it's program-specific instructions, workshops, group practice, what is expected in each dissertation chapter, one possible scenario would be you pass around a petition. Other people in your program say they want it. You pass it into your program office as well as to your graduate school. And the reason I suggest both is that they have 2 different pots of money available to them. They both work together to get the needs of students satisfied. And by putting something out there in a way where 2 people on a college campus are both aware that the other person knows that this is a need, will increase the likelihood that it gets followed through on. Universities are politically oriented places, and I don't think there's a human being alive that doesn't work harder, faster, more to a deadline when somebody else is watching than when somebody else isn't watching. So it behooves trying to move something ahead that you put it out there in a way where a couple of people are watching. Now, writing consultants with doctoral degrees, I graduated at Teachers College from Columbia, and there was such a person, and she was attached to the printmaking shop in the basement, or they knew of her. And I only knew of her because I had her in a class, and I found out that she was doing that kind of work. And then you have to decide for yourself, do you want a consultant? Do you want somebody to read and make suggestions, or do you want an editor, meaning you want somebody to redline stuff that could be said better, or do you want a little of both? And what's your budget going to be like? There are organizations on the web who do just that, and their prices vary a lot. And I have had, we do a small amount. It's not at all what we do, but we do have every year 2 or 3 students come to us for some pretty significant consultation work. And what we've heard is that you can pay a lot and not necessarily be happy with what you get. So I suggest that you really watch your pennies and you figure out how to get consulting help done. And actually, it works out to be cheaper for you if it's on an hourly basis than if it's here's a job kind of basis. You're going to get all this big package. Because what if that big package isn't what you want? If a job isn't what you want, you can just not pay them the next hour and cut it off. So think about these things. But there are consultants out there, and you can look at the web. What you don't want is somebody else doing your work for you. What you do want is somebody who's been there before you, who's willing to have a neutral conversation with you and give you a different perspective. So you can say to them, this is what I hear, and they can just offer you, because every college campus has its own bit of rules, and you want to play what you do to your best advantage. And your always your supervisor is your bottom line, but you may want to get some other lines going before you go to the bottom line. That's your choice. It's a way of working through things. I had a consultant on my writing, and what I found was a pretty consistent suggestion on her part that I rearranged my paragraphs so that I told people where I was going, and then I took them there, and then I told them where they'd been. And that has turned out to be a rule that has stayed well by me over all of my writing from then on. So if you want to get where you're going in writing, and just a final point, as someone who writes books, books are written with the help of lots of others. So you write a textbook, you have peer reviewers, and they tear your work apart. You write a journal article, you have peer reviewers. If you are writing a textbook, they also have it copy edited after all the review work is done. So you stop paying so much attention to the periods and commas and that kind of thing, and you start focusing on the ideas and the structure of the ideas, which leads me to another call out that in about a week, I think the week after next, we are doing a seminar that is very popular on organizing your ideas for writing. And as one of these questions in WooClap mentions, it's 2 levels, or maybe it was Adrian here. It's 2 levels, isn't it? It's the writing itself, and it's also the process of writing. And for me, it's easier to unpack those things, look at them separately, and then put them back together. So that's a lot of comments. Let me see if there's anything else in here that is coming up that I should talk about. And no, I think we're okay on answering questions. Statistical counseling. Yeah, just remember that yours is not the only program on your campus. So there are other programs where everybody is a stats person, and other PhD students who might be really good at stats, who can work with you on your statistical work. So don't limit yourself just when you're reaching out for help just to the people with the degrees. In Ireland, we have something called grinds, and it's where people go when they need to learn. It's kind of like tutoring in the United States. And people who run grinds are often not the people who are within the organizations where the students are who are taking the grinds. Does that make sense? Adrienne says she needs a sounding board with a doctoral degree to run your logicality and writing plan. Absolutely. You need those sounding boards. I think sounding board is a great outcome. So Adrienne, you're at Columbia. There might be people in the Columbia campus, or there might be opportunities on the out of the quad that can help you that are out of the teachers college side of things. And there again, it's that it often too, don't overlook librarians as a place to ask questions. And the graduate school at Columbia might know about things that that would be available to Teachers College and Brown and all the other colleges that are part of Columbia could access. So think big. Go to outside of your normal context when you're trying to answer some of these questions. I'm going to get to the one that's gotten the most likes, the practical orientation to your program, not getting prepared for the job you want. I'm going to talk about that after I get to this planning work with others, because I think it has something to do. An up and down portion of being in graduate school is that you are an adult person guiding your own life, frequently, not uncommonly anymore, even older than the people who are teaching you. And yet they have a whole lot more power over your outcomes in this particular situation. So a theme that you're going to see running through what I'm saying today is that you have a lot of contexts in your life to find what it is you need. You can go to the broader university campus. You can look for people to help you who are faculty or adjunct faculty in other dimensions. You can go to other libraries. You can step out of your normal into a more neutral environment and ask more easily for the help you need. Great. But sometimes you need to ask the people who have power over you for the help you need. And that's a bit trickier, because what you don't want to do is ask for help in a way that makes you look needy, because really being overworked people in an academic environment, the people who know what they're doing and they're just going to get it done and they just kind of blast themselves through, do have a certain status. And they do get through easier because they have that self-confidence. So let's talk about how to negotiate. First off, you are not involved in distributive negotiation. Rarely. If you were going into something and you need a yes or a no answer, it doesn't matter to you whether you're going to get it one way or the other. You're asking an admin person to do something. You're asking whatever. That's perhaps distributive negotiation. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. You have to phrase what you want in a way that's concise. Tell somebody why you want it. You want your humanity to show, and you want to go about getting what you want. Okay, that's distributive. But most of the things that tie up graduate students are integrative negotiations, where you not only have a need you want to be met, you have to have a relationship that continues after that negotiation goes on. Much more difficult. And So it's they're touchier, and they often are situations that you feel like there's a lot on the line. If you don't do it well, you may have a no that you're not sure you can live with. You don't know how to go forward. And I'll give you an example that came from our conversation last week. Somebody put up on WooClap that they had to get their research started by a certain date, or their entire plan for getting finished fell apart, and their advisor wasn't moving forward on the final okay. That's a big deal. That's a deal that makes you just really unhappy. And so it's good to think about this. This is a business book, but it's very important. And as we think about how much are we willing to compromise, where are we on these boxes? So how important is this relationship? If this is your program supervisor and you don't even get to take your dissertation to your committee until they sign off on it, they are very important. If this is an admin in your office, they have to like you, but whatever, it's not as important. So you will accommodate someone in high importance, or you will try to collaborate with them. You will not compete with them, and you will not avoid something that you shouldn't avoid. Now, let's talk about low importance and high importance. If it is of some importance, but you can work around it, then you will accommodate. However, if it's I really have to get this done, or my entire research plan breaks down, I really need you to move over on this, it's of high importance, and you want to change the conversation to where they are collaborating with you. And to some extent, supervising doctoral work through is a collaborative venture, and even the most do it my way or the highway supervisor probably can identify that, because you do have to respond to students. You are in a place, you have rules of your university. You do want to have them get through. You don't want them to spend 10 years on your desk. It also doesn't look good on your professional academic career if you never get any of your PhD students through. And so they also have pressures. And you can play on those pressures by helping them see that helping you right now is actually collaborating to get you through, and getting you through makes them look good. So there's ways of phrasing it, and I just want to bring that out as an option. Through all of this, there will be some compromise. And so this is how you prepare. And you will have these slides. I will put them right up. And they are available to you on the oer.pd.education site. So there's a preparation. When you're going into something that counts, don't just go in cold. Think about it. What are you trying to achieve? And what do you think the other person's goals are? What are you willing to give away? If you set your goal a little high, then you can let some of it go. What could the other party offer you? How could you, if they're very busy, could you help them with the busyness in order to free up the time to get this done, whatever it takes? Alternatives. If you can't achieve your goals, let's look at the worst case scenario. You got to know, what would your next best negotiated agreement be? And you will feel more secure if you know what that is before you go in. Also, has anybody else ever negotiated this with this person before? Find out about that. Has a precedent been set where they can't say yes to you because they said no to everybody else? And then once you figure that what the precedent might be, how does that change the things above? Consequences, Is this just one thing you're asking? Or is this actually a series of things that have gone on for a while? How can you make it a small, if some people respond to little things better than a big thing, some people respond to the whole package. And what do they have to lose, or what do they have to gain out of this? Very important question. Think from their point of view. It's like when we write. When we write, we will get published if we have our reader in our minds as we are writing. If we understand their needs, etc., then we're much more likely to get that publication. Who holds the power? That goes back to the last thing. And now that you've thought yourself through that, is what you're requesting really fair? And if it is fair, how do you present it in a way that shows its fairness right from the very beginning? Once again, these slides are in your soon to be up there handouts. Okay, this question started with a person in WooClap asking, how do I organize my committee? How can I find a time when all my committee can get together? And that made me immediately ask, well, what kind of tools are you using? Because it's very frustrating if you're going to committee member, asking them for their schedules, trying to get things together. It's not so frustrating if you use an electronic tool. And so I went out there and I did a little search, and that particular link will lead you to 4 or 5 examples of some electronic tools that if you find a situation where you are responsible for getting your committee together in a certain time period, that you have the tools behind you. By the way, in a lot of colleges, that is not your job. That is the admin's job in the office. Just so you know, that if they're putting it on you, you might go to the admin and say, really, is this my job? Because it might not always be. Now, I'm looking through our questions. Yes, so a question that came up with this was asking for a more practical orientation to the program. Feel like I'm not going to be prepared for the job I want. And I think, did I put that up next? No. So this is a multifaceted question. And several of you have said it was important. It requires that a couple of things. First, it requires that you list on paper, so you can see it, what you think you're not getting that will be required by the job you want. And then it requires that you do some kind of literature search and that shows that it in fact is what's required by the job you want, that you came into this degree thinking you could get that job more easily because you had that. Every program is under pressure today to be developing students who are also employable across a much wider range of potential employment than we've ever seen before. So it will not be an uncommon attitude for a student to say, I want this job outside of, it could be, I'm going to use an outside of academia job opportunity, because I think in general, academia does a decent job of propelling you forward for itself. But the days of you getting jobs just in academia are 10 years past. And actually, attitudes are now changing, where depends on how you will have mentors at your university. They will be generations older than you. If they are 2 or more generations older than you, they may still not have copped on to the fact that they're not just training people for academic jobs. But most people, I think, are aware of the statistics that show just how many PhDs are getting hired by industry. And So you want to be hired for a particular job. You find out what that job requires that you are not being given, and you have two options. One is to take that conversation to somebody, to your program chair, actually, to the top of your program, and say, I want this job. I am not going to get it out of this list of classes that I have to take, or whatever, and see what they say in response. It is possible, and this differs campus to campus, but you might be able to set up to exchange a class that clearly wasn't on the path to where you were going for an independent study that was. And then you would have the opportunity and responsibility to find the person who could lead you through that independent option. But program chairs have a lot of ability to massage the system to your advantage, but it always takes the same thing. It takes you being thoughtful, it takes you having backup evidence, and it takes you being crystal clear that, so here are some here's some examples of this particular job and what they are looking for, and here is your program, and I don't see myself getting that. That's a good conversation. Another thing to back yourself up. This all has to do with whether or not you can build a good argument. So you're making a claim, you need something, you're giving evidence to that, and then you need a warrant of how it might be possible to negotiate through to a better solution for yourself. Using academic language, that's what you're doing. And this really requires a whole lot of you and your own awareness and your own, I'm going to just say, adulthood, to meet people from a not one step down position. And I have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, empathy for the fact that that's much easier said than done. There is something about the way education used to be that still plays through in graduate education that puts a student back into how they felt emotionally when they were in primary school, secondary school, whatever it's called in your part of the world. And we all have perhaps some emotional baggage from that period of time. And we meet people who have power over us in that kind of a position. So I'm just saying, if you're going to take any of the advice, if anything I've said resonates with you, talk to your outside people, talk it through, go through the negotiation thing that I have given you, and role play a little. Figure it out. Be the best, most adult. I am making a good argument here. Understand about how to build that argument. And then you'll probably have a pretty good chance. Because in general, I don't find, I travel to colleges and I'm part of organizations that are global. And so I'm meeting educators from all over the world. And we really do want students to do well. But the students who do well are the students who know how to guide their own ship. And so that's what caused me to do this today. Let's see what's come up. Anything else in WooClap that I haven't addressed? I think one person said less discussion in class. I think that goes with, if you don't like the way the class is running, figure out what that seed is giving you, and then have a conversation with the professor about what else you need out of that topic for where you want to go. They will appreciate the feedback, just like we really appreciate you telling us things in WooClap. They will appreciate having that feedback from you. You guiding your own ship is really a powerful way to learn, for us to learn. It's part of what makes it enjoyable for us. Adrian says that she worked with a student at Columbia who was a statistical consultant, and had her statistical model straightened out. So you can work with a postdoc, Adrian, find a postdoc who will help you sort out your process of writing. There's got to be somebody in who will be that. And she uses doodles as with seminar fellows for group meetings. Less formal, works quite well. I'm part of a business group, and we doodle as well. So it does work, and it saves a whole lot of time because people are difficult. Also, just if we want to talk about electronic tools, our office is virtual. We have people who work with us all over the world, and we use Slack as our communication tool. And it's way better than email when you regularly have business-oriented discussions where you need to put up documents, where you can have channels of discussion, and then you can also have private messages with the people in the Slack group. And there is a free plan that's fairly robust, if that's helpful. Okay, we have 4 minutes left. I talked a lot today. I would ask any more questions, please. Just if you have a question, put your hand up. I will wait as long as it takes. And I just want to ask you to go to SurveyMonkey web experience and tell us how this was for you today. It's just 3 questions. It takes a minute to do. And as you're writing those things out, and I also just want to say, this WooClap Slack is 24/7 online chat messenger. Yes, but it's more than chat now. It's more like a Skype type interface. You can talk to people, and it's really robust. Once you have a group and it's solid and you know who's in your group, Slack works well. And for us as a virtual company, we could literally, it is our office. Everything goes on in Slack that would go on if we had an office and we walked into each other's rooms and had conversations and had meetings and things. And I am putting up our handouts. Please raise your hand if you have anything else. And I would love a 1 to 5. Please, with 5 being you loved it and 1 being no, it really wasn't what you had in mind. Tell me how today was for you, because this is the kind of conversation that we can have, because people respond to us personally, but is it comfortable for you? Is it what you wanted? And what did you take from it? I'm always so curious about that. So here is the handouts going up now, and this will give you all the links that I had live. So any 1 to 5s for me? Another way we can do that, if you're interested in seeing it in a cloud, I can go put up in WooClap in a single word, how did you describe this experience? You can go there and put in words, and if enough people do it, it'll build a cloud for us. Rich. Oh, thank you. That's a good word. Let me, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll go to WooClap. I will start screen sharing the other screen. And then you can see you build your own cloud. And as I'm doing that, I will turn off the recording. So thanks to everybody who's watched by recording. You won't get the full, I might stay a little longer. If anybody else has anything they want to put up in WooClap, any other single words that describe today? it is fun, I think, perhaps, to have a cloud develop. wooclap.com/pd.plan. Satisfied. Good. Good. Formative. But maybe having a slide or two to summarize suggestions given would help retrain our memory. That's possible. Good idea on that one, Adrian. And that's also why we have recordings. When they go up in recording, you'll be able to fast tab through to the parts that you remember as being particularly apt. So thanks, everyone. I hope to see you again. The bigmarker.com/conferences, always open, and we have lots of excellent things coming up in October. 1st of October, if you're at one of our universities, you'll get a full list of all of them, so watch for that email.